All right, time to dive into this web developer thing, huh? You brought some interesting stuff from RoleCatcher, those career resource excerpts. They're not kidding around. It seems like you want to get into it, like really see behind the scenes of what it takes to not just make it, but to really thrive in web development.
Yeah, kind of separating, the code from the whole career path,
Yeah,
right?
exactly, which is what we're all about here.
Yeah.
So you shared some stuff about what web developers actually do day to day. And I gotta say, RoleCatcher, they're not pulling any punches. It's not just about like being a coding machine all day, is it?
No, no. They talk about it more like being a digital architects, really.
Mm-hmm.
Aligning a client's presence online, their website, with their actual business goals, which I think is interesting. You need to understand both sides of it. The tech stuff, sure, but also the business side.
So you're not just building a website, you're building a solution. You need those problem-solving skills, that on-the-fly thinking, right? I can see why RoleCatcher is like analytical skills, just as important as knowing, your languages.
Absolutely. And the thing is, the web, it just doesn't sit still. What works today could be totally different tomorrow. So that adaptability, that love of learning, it's not just talk. Those are must-haves.
Which makes me think about the work-life balance, which I know is something you're always keen to get into. RoleCatcher's painting a picture here, right?
Right.
High demand, big competition, flexibility, but also crazy deadlines. Sounds like lots of late nights, lots of coffee. How do you navigate that, especially someone just starting out?
You have to be aware of the downsides and go in with your eyes open. Asking the right questions is key. Demanding clients, which they mention, that can be really stressful. You go into an interview, you need to be ready to ask them, how do you manage projects? What are the expectations after hours? Can I actually take a vacation? That kind of thing.
Yeah, setting those boundaries early is key, protecting your time and energy.
Exactly. And this leads to something else from RoleCatcher that I think gets missed. Soft skills. People don't think about them in a tech-heavy field, but
It's like they say, you can have the best tools in the world, but if you don't know how to use them.
exactly. They hit hard on communication and collaboration, and for good reason.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just coding in a vacuum. You've got designers, project managers, clients. You're explaining the tech stuff in plain English, talking deadlines, giving and receiving feedback, the whole 9 yards.
It's about being a team player.
100%. And, active listening, clear communication, those aren't just buzzwords. They're how you get things done. Oh. And reading comprehension, believe it or not.
Wait, really?
Yeah. RoleCatcher mentions it. It sounds odd. You're like, huh. It sounds odd, but you're constantly reading, right? Technical docs, what the client wants, articles, keeping up with the industry. Got to be able to process that stuff quickly.
Like a digital detective figuring it all out. Speaking of which, RoleCatcher doesn't shy away from, let's be honest, the algorithm, the whole beat the robot recruiter thing. Fascinating and a little scary, right?
It's the reality now. Job hunting's all digital. I give them credit for addressing it head on. Your resume's up against, what, hundreds of others maybe? Algorithms do that first filter.
And they've got all these tools to help you tailor your application using AI and all that. What do you think? Is it gaming the system or is it understanding how to work within it?
I'd say it's a little bit of both, to be honest. It's not about tricking the system. It's more like you got to know how to speak its language. RoleCatcher talks about keywords, right? Using the right words in your resume so the algorithm knows what it's looking at, highlighting those skills they're programmed to pick up on.
It's like SEO for your career. You got to get those clicks from the robots.
Exactly. You're selling yourself, but you're doing it in a way that both, the human recruiters and the algorithms, they both get it.
Speaking of selling yourself, RoleCatcher's got this whole career ladder thing laid out from entry level all the way to senior developer. But they also use the term jungle gym, which I thought was interesting. Like it's not always a straight shot to the top, right?
Right, and that's important. Web development, it's so big, so many directions you can go. You might start as a junior developer, totally normal. Then maybe you find yourself into front-end development. That's all the visual stuff, what people actually see and use on a website.
Ah, so that's where like your HTML, your CSS, your JavaScript really come in.
Exactly. Making it look good, making it easy to use. But you could go the other way. Back-end development. That's all the behind-the-scenes stuff, the databases, the servers, the logic of it all.
The stuff most people don't even see, but it makes the whole thing work.
Exactly. And then there's full stack, which is both. Front end and back end. Those developers, they've got the big picture.
Like the Swiss Army knife of web dev, they can do it all.
That's the one. But no matter what you end up doing, RoleCatcher, they're big on this. You got to keep learning. This field, it never stops changing.
So it's not just climbing the ladder. It's like leveling up your skills constantly, whether it's certifications, personal projects, just reading up on the latest stuff.
All about being proactive. You're in the driver's seat of your career, basically.
And speaking of the future, one thing RoleCatcher kept bringing up was staying ahead of the curve. So what do you see? The big trends, the game changers in web development, 5, 10 years down the line, where's it all going?
That is the question, isn't it? Predicting the future is tough, especially with tech. But there are some things I'm really excited about them. Things that have huge potential. I think we'll see big changes in these areas.
Okay, spill it. What's got you fired up?
Well, we've mentioned it, but AI in web development, that's blowing up right now. Combining the two, the possibilities are kind of mind-blowing, and we're just getting started.
I'm curious about that. What does it actually look like? AI changing the game for web dev. Give me some examples.
Well, think about websites that, know what you want before you even search. Recommending stuff you actually might be into based on what you did before.
Right.
That's AI doing its thing.
That's like a personal shopper for the internet. That's wild.
Right. But it goes deeper. AI can personalize everything, how the website looks, what colors they use, even the way they write to you, all based on who you are.
Okay, that's next level. But what about the actual developers? How does this affect the work they do?
That's where it gets really cool. There are AI tools now. They can automate the boring stuff developers used to spend hours on. Writing basic code, finding errors, even making basic website layouts.
So it's like having an assistant that does the grunt work so you can focus on the more creative stuff?
Exactly. Instead of spending all day on a contact form, you can use AI to do it in seconds, and then you have time for the bigger challenges. The design stuff, the complex back-end stuff, that's where it gets interesting.
That's huge, especially with all the pressure developers are under, those tight deadlines. But AI is not the only thing changing, right?
Oh, no way. This is a big one, and it's only getting bigger. Web accessibility. We talked about websites for everyone, right? That's what this is. Making sure that no matter who you are, what your abilities are, you can use the web. Disabilities, no disabilities, it shouldn't matter.
Creating a more inclusive web, I like it. How are developers actually doing that, though?
There's this awareness now. People are learning the best practices. How to structure your code so it's readable by screen readers. Those things that read the text aloud for people who can't see it. Writing descriptions for images, semantic HTML. All these little things add up.
So it's not just looking good, it's got to work for everybody.
Right. And the good news is there are tools for that. Now, it's way easier than it used to be to build with accessibility in mind from the very beginning.
That's awesome. So the future of web development, it's not just about pushing tech to its limits. It's also about making sure everyone's along for the ride.
100%. And of course, we can't forget about the elephant in the room, the metaverse.
Ah, yes, the metaverse. It's everywhere, isn't it? From movies to every tech conference I see advertised. Is it something developers need to be thinking about right now?
It's early days, for sure.
Yeah.
But the potential is there. It could completely change how we use the internet. And web developers, they'd be the ones building these new worlds. We're already seeing VR, AR, those are like dipping your toes in. The metaverse is diving in head first.
So instead of just visiting a website, you're in it, walking around.
Exactly. Imagine a virtual concert, trying on clothes without going to a store, even visiting a museum on the other side of the world, all from your couch.
That's wild, the possibilities. It sounds incredibly complex to build, though. What skills do you even need for that?
The basics are still the basics.
Yeah.
You need to know how to build a website. But this is next level. You're talking 3D modeling, game engines, stuff that's not your typical web dev stuff.
A whole new frontier. New challenges, new rewards, right?
For sure. Like with anything new, it'll take time to figure it all out. But for the people who are brave enough to try to experiment, the metaverse could be huge.
It's like the line between the internet and the real world, it's just going to disappear eventually.
Yeah, and we can't forget about the ethics of it all. That's a whole other conversation.
Right. Just because we can build it doesn't always mean we should.
Exactly. And we can dig into that another time. I think the main thing here is the future of web development. It's wide open, full of challenges, but also full of chances to do amazing stuff.
So future of web development, pretty bright then. But let's bring it back down to earth for a sec. Someone listening right now, maybe they're just starting out, learning to code. What would you tell them? What do they need to make it in this crazy world of web dev?
It goes back to that growth mindset we talked about. Web dev, it's not like you reach the finish line and that's it. It's a constant journey, right? Always learning new stuff, new tech, new problems to solve. So being adaptable, curious, that's huge. And don't give up easily.
The only constant is change, like they say.
Exactly. If you're scared of change, this field's going to leave you behind. You got to embrace the learning, even the mistakes. Get comfortable with being a little uncomfortable, pushing your own boundaries.
Which is tough. When you're just starting, you don't have all the answers yet.
Oh, for sure.
Mm.
That's why finding your people is so important. A mentor, a community, people who get it, who can support you.
Like your digital support group, right? Cheering you on.
I love it. And honestly, nothing beats just doing the work. Want to learn web dev? Build something. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just start. Try different things. Code every day if you can, even if it's a tiny thing.
Yeah.
You learn by doing.
Building that portfolio so you can show people what you can do.
Exactly. And once you've got some experience under your belt, don't be afraid to, pick a lane. Web dev is getting so specialized. You could be the front-end expert, the back-end guru, cybersecurity, accessibility, even AI stuff like we talked about. Pick what speaks to you.
Like choosing your character class in a video game. What kind of developer are you going to be?
I like it. Find that thing, that passion, the thing that makes you excited to code, and go all in. Become the expert. That's how you stand out.
Become the go-to person, the one everyone wants on their team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And never forget what you do. It matters. Building websites, it's about connecting people, sharing knowledge. It can be powerful stuff.
Like a digital superhero using your powers for good.
100%. So anyone out there listening, feeling that web dev pull, take the leap. It's challenging, sure, but it's worth it. The future is waiting.
I could have said it better myself. And that is a wrap on this deep dive into the world of web development. Hope you all learned a thing or two, or maybe got inspired to build something amazing. Just remember, the internet never stops moving, so keep learning, keep experimenting, and who knows what you'll create.